Alright, so the Egg Fleet Power Flight is a skip that tends to leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths when they hear of it, but here I'm actually going to show you how to not make that be a thing, because it is actually a very easy skip. I'm just going to show off real quick how you do, normally, but by not actually waiting to get all the way to the end, because the last part of the skip is kind of a time-consuming part. Also, I should mention throughout this tutorial, this is going to be a video to where if you already know the main concept of the Power Flight. If you don't, well, I can explain for you right here. You see on the bottom right of the screen, I'm hitting B, then BA, B, then BA, B, then BA. That's all you gotta do. You hit B, then as big as belly flopping down, you'll hold B again, and then hitting A. It's a very easy concept for this, and you want to do it rhythmically. So when you do it, so if you belly flop for too long or falls for too long, he doesn't start to descend like this. Come on, big. You see how Big's kind of descending now? Also, there would be the end of the stage, but I kind of did that, so you can't really get to it now. Alright, now the setup. When you first start off, you're going to want to obviously hit the boost pad here. And then you're going to want to go off these. What I like to do is, I like to do 2 rolls and then pausing out of it. Which that does basically is, when you do a roll and then you hit pause, then you let go of B and unpause, that gives Amy her loop speed, or her roll speed, while not having to do a hammer trick at the end of it. And I'll do it again here. Hold, let go, hit pause and let go of B. And then when coming up, I'm going to be jumping onto that pillar over there on the right, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using my umbrella on top of the pillar. Then I'm going to belly flop cancel and to run onto it. And when you do that, you're gonna want to belly flop again once you hit the bottom red part of the pillar. Why the bottom red is because that part does not have collision, where the silver part will. And when you don't time it correctly, this will happen. You'll basically just die like that. Which is why when you belly flop, you want to make sure you are no longer on the collision, specifically onto the red part. Like this. Alright, now that I'm going off, you're gonna want to turn right as you are going past this first wing, or this next pillar, because that pillar over there has a very wide hitbox, and if you do it again as an example, if you do not turn too far to the right, which is actually not that much, but it's best to just turn all the way to the right anyway to be safe, you will just get obstructed by the hitbox and you'll die. And I will demonstrate that in a second. That can happen. So basically, to get past that, you really just want to hold top right and make sure that you don't hit that big thing of collision. And you're fine. Alright, next coming up is we're going to be going past this area, and then we're going to be going down here. Now, when I get over to under the next pillar over here on the top left, you're going to want to land on the silver part while just falling. Not as a belly flop, but as a fall, which is when you cancel out the belly flop. The reason you want to do that is because if you belly flop, you will just belly flop off the silver flooring, or the silver wall, and then you'll just die. And that's what'll happen if you do this. You see? And you cancel out of it. You don't want to do that. What you'll want to do, even though I can't really do it here, is you would do that, and then you would do the belly flop cancel to where you would be descending off the silver flooring. And let me get back over there in a second to show you what I mean. So when you get over here, you're going to want to make sure you align yourself properly to where your belly flop cancel doesn't take too long, to where you'll just start to descend like right after you hit the flooring, because mind you, this collision under the silver flooring is actually kind of wide, meaning that when you, or should I say tall, to where even though you're no longer on the silver flooring, it will still be pushing you down, and you want to make sure you're no longer on it to where you are descending more until before you start to belly flop again, like this. There you go. Now when you're down here, this part will also get scary. You want to continuously hold down until you'll feel yourself touch another barrier about 3 belly flops in, and with that belly flop, you want to be careful with it, because you'll... Okay, well I missed it there, which is actually a good thing. But when you hit that collision, you'll want to make sure... You'll eventually find out, like, you know, by your own like visual cue or audio cue when you'll be touching that pillar. And when you do that, you want to make sure that the belly flop isn't going through as you're touching that floor, because much like what happened with the silver wall, it will cancel you out by just belly flopping onto that collision. And when you do that, you're going to die. But if you make it under, or if you just slide under, perfect. That's perfect. And then when you get over here, you're just going to want to obviously belly flop up here, hold the top right direction basically. Actually, before I go through that, let me explain one more thing that could happen if you mess it up a bit, which may also show if I touch that collision later on in the level. Let me see. It's dependent if you touch that collision based on when you decide to belly flop again after you hit the silver flooring, or after you go under the silver flooring. Looks like my belly flop here was a bit too curved to where I'm not going to hit the floor, which is actually a good thing that it happened, because I can actually have that for a while, which is something that can happen. But that's kind of rare, you don't have to worry about that happening very often. That was just me belly flopping too early. Alright, there that wall was. You saw how I kind of slid there for a second? If you want to make sure that you are belly flop canceling from that, because if you don't, like I said, you will die from the collision. Now when you get here, you want to make sure you hold down for a couple more belly flop cancels before you start descending upwards. The reason why is because if you start ascending now, your camera's going to get messed up like this. Now here's the fun thing about this: if you hold the top right direction, which is technically up right, or up left I should say, you can still make it like this. It is just a lot scarier. You'll know you're making it to the ship when the camera starts to get all jittery. And you'll know if you made it to, you know you'll have enough height if you don't see the ship at all. Which is kind of actually a good thing, because more height is better than no height, so then you can actually fall for a bit as the camera will end up eventually changing back. And I will show what I mean in a minute. I do recommend you practice if this happens though, because it is actually kind of scary. And there you go. And that's how you can make that if the camera messes up. But that doesn't mean that I recommend you do that. But now I'm going to show how do you avoid getting that camera angle. Alright, so when you go under the invisible wall, you're going to want to hold left for about 3 or 4 belly flaps, and then you'll start ascending like this. Now when you are finally avoiding that camera trigger, you're going to want to just hold up left. That's it. Just hold up left until you start seeing the ship, and then you'll know whether or not if you want to start holding up more or left more. And I think I'm too low right now, so I'll probably have to start holding up a little bit later on. Or actually earlier on, I should say. But for this part, just like I said before, have a rhythmical belly flop cancel for power flight, and you'll feel yourself being pushed like this. That just means you're getting close to the ship, so you don't have to worry about that happening. Oh, so I actually do have enough height. So now here, you'll just continuously hold left. Just keep doing it, and you're there. So like I said, really simple power flight. There's not much to it besides just this. There's just some things that you have to avoid when going for it. But yeah, that is pretty much the concept for this power flight. And yeah, hopefully you'll be able to do this in runs now.